It was meant to be the campaign that changed everything. A slick bottle cap lottery promising hope, fortune, and a way out of poverty. But what started as a dream for millions of Filipinos spiraled into riots, bombings, and death. This isn't just a story about soda. It's about trust broken, lives shattered, and how one number, just 3 digits, brought a nation to its knees. This is the true story of Pepsi's number fever, and how it became one of the most explosive marketing disasters in history. It was February 1992, and the Philippines stood at a crossroads, economically strained, socially divided, and soaked in uncertainty. In the glow of Manila's neon lights and the shadowed corners of sprawling slums, families scraped by, and children dared to dream big on impossibly small wages. In the midst of it all, the Cola Wars raged on. Coca-Cola wasn't just the frontrunner, it was the undisputed champion, commanding a staggering 75% of the nation's soft drink market, and holding a deep emotional grip on Filipino households. Pepsi, meanwhile, trailed far behind, barely making a dent despite years of marketing campaigns and corporate ambition. Desperate to close the gap and turn the tide, Pepsi knew it needed something radical, something bold enough to steal attention, win hearts, and rewrite the rules of the game. And they thought they found it. Pepsi called it Number Fever, a slick, high-stakes marketing campaign imported straight from their successes in Latin America, where it had sparked sales booms in countries like Chile. The idea was intoxicating in its simplicity. Underneath every Pepsi bottle cap was a number. Each night, the winning number would be revealed live on national television. If your number matched, you'd walk away with 1 million pesos, about $40,000 at the time. In the Philippines of 1992, where poverty was widespread and the average wage barely scratched subsistence, that wasn't just money, it was salvation. A house, a business, school fees for your children, an entire new life. And so the fever spread, fast, hot, and unstoppable. Across towns and cities in the Philippines, the Number Fever campaign gripped the nation like wildfire. Pepsi offered smaller prizes, 100 pesos, 500 pesos, but it was the million peso jackpot that captured hearts and imaginations. That kind of money could change everything. Bottle caps became a new kind of currency, symbols of possibility, currency of hope. Families hoarded them in jars, tucked them into drawers, and even built shrines in their living rooms. Children scoured trash bins outside sari-sari stores, hoping to find that one magic number. Each night at 6 p.m, entire barangays gathered around televisions, holding their breath, hearts pounding, as the Channel 2 anchor announced, "Tomorrow's winning number is." And it worked. For Pepsi, it was a miracle. Sales exploded. Hope bloomed in kitchens and street corners. Within weeks, Pepsi's market share nearly doubled, and the company claimed that more than half of all Filipinos were playing. Tens of millions chasing a dream printed under a bottle cap. For a while, it was magic. Pepsi, long trailing behind Coca-Cola, suddenly had a real foothold. Encouraged by the frenzy, company executives made a decision that would haunt them forever. They extended the contest by 5 more weeks. It looked like a masterstroke, until it all went tragically wrong. A single computer error was quietly about to turn this dream into a national nightmare. It was 6 p.m. on May the 25th, 1992, when the Channel 2 evening news cut through the noise of everyday life in the Philippines with just a few words. Tomorrow's winning number is 349. That announcement should have changed the lives of 2 people. Instead, it sparked one of the most chaotic corporate disasters in advertising history. Behind the scenes, Pepsi had been using a computer system to tightly control the contest. Each bottling plant was issued a minuscule number of winning caps, usually just 2, each with a unique security code carefully distributed to avoid going over budget. But after the contest was extended by 5 weeks, that control collapsed. A software glitch in the system randomly selected the number 349 as the next million-peso winner, a number that had already been flagged as a non-winner. But the printing system didn't know that. And so the bottling plants had printed the 349 cap freely without limits or codes. By the time the number aired on TV, there were over 600,000, some say as many as 800,000, caps marked 349 in circulation. And they were everywhere, tucked inside pockets, stored in jars, lining shop counters and kitchen tables. 349 wasn't rare, it was common. So when that number was announced, a tidal wave of joy erupted. Hundreds of thousands of Filipinos believed their lives had just changed forever. Celebrations exploded across the country. People cried, laughed and hugged in the streets. Some had multiple winning caps. Jubilant crowds descended on Pepsi headquarters in Manila with winning caps in hand, expecting life-changing payouts. They were millionaires, or so they thought. They didn't know it yet, but the dream was about to collapse. Security guards were overwhelmed, call centers jammed, and in a country where 1 million pesos, roughly $40,000 could lift an entire family out of poverty, this wasn't just a prize, it was deliverance. But inside the Pepsi boardroom, the mood couldn't have been more different. By midnight, the grim reality had set in. A critical error had led to over 600,000 winning caps being printed and distributed, an impossible mistake. Honouring every claim would have cost the company over $30 billion. Executives scrambled for damage control. They blamed a computer glitch and offered what they called a consolation, 500 pesos per cap, just $18, or less than 1% of the promised prize. Pepsi offered the compensation to consolation winners only if they didn't file lawsuits. For a brief moment, they may have believed the gesture would calm the storm. It did the opposite. What began with joyful crowds quickly turned into a firestorm. People felt betrayed by a corporation that had dangled hope and then ripped it away. Protests flared up nationwide. Enraged winners, hundreds of thousands of them, descended on Pepsi plants across the Philippines. Molotov cocktails were hurled through factory windows. Delivery trucks were ambushed and set ablaze in the streets. In Davao, a homemade bomb tore through a Pepsi vehicle, killing 3 employees. And in Manila, a grenade blast during a protest claimed the lives of a school teacher and a young child. The death toll was 5, and the damage, both physical and emotional, would haunt the country for years. The number that had promised fortune, 349, was now burned into national memory, not as a winning ticket, but as a symbol of crushed dreams. From celebration to chaos, the aftermath of the Pepsi numberfever disaster became one of the most volatile corporate fallouts in modern history. From the ashes of disillusionment rose Coalition 349, a grassroots resistance movement named after the infamous winning number. Led by a charismatic preacher, Vicente del Fierro Jr., the group mobilized over 8,000 aggrieved claimants, parents, workers, entire families, each holding onto a worthless bottle cap and a dream ripped away. Together they filed over 5,000 criminal complaints and nearly 700 civil suits demanding justice. Their stories were heartbreaking. A bus driver who flushed his 3 winning caps down the toilet in despair. A mother of 12 who believed she'd won 35 million pesos from multiple caps. Elderly Filipinos who had seen in Pepsi their first real shot at dignity and security. The group staged marches, chanted outside bottling plants and flooded the legal system with their demands. But just as Coalition 349 gained momentum, a sinister shadow crept into the story. In early 1993, reports began to surface that some of the violence during the protests may not have come from the claimants at all. A police officer alleged that Pepsi may have secretly hired mercenaries to infiltrate the movement. They were posing as violent agitators to discredit the group. The goal was to paint Coalition 349 as dangerous radicals and sway public sympathy and the courts against them. Other witnesses echoed the claims, saying they'd been paid to incite chaos. PepsiCo's legal team denied the allegations categorically. No charges were ever filed and the claims were quietly swept aside. But the damage to public trust had already been done. For many, the idea that Pepsi had not only crushed dreams, but may have tried to rewrite the narrative was unforgivable. Later in 1993, Coalition 349 felt their first and only real taste of justice. Arrest warrants were issued for 9 Pepsi executives. For a brief moment, it felt like the tides had turned. Protesters cheered, community leaders rallied. Maybe, just maybe, the system would acknowledge the pain they had suffered. But justice, like the million pesos they were promised, proved elusive. Over the following months, civil suits were tossed out one by one. Courts ruled that Pepsi had not been criminally negligent. The reason? The bottle caps that had triggered the chaos, hundreds of thousands of them, lacked the proper security codes. Technically, they were never meant to be winners at all. In 2006, the Philippine Supreme Court put the final nail in the coffin. It absolved Pepsi of liability, closing the last remaining legal avenues. The company paid just one fine of 150,000 pesos, about $2,800. That was the price for 5 lives lost, for injuries, riots, and an entire generation left disillusioned. For the executives, it was a lesson in crisis PR. For many Filipinos, it was something closer to betrayal. To this day, the fallout lingers. In parts of the Philippines, even uttering the word Pepsi can sour a conversation. Some families still boycott the brand. Others carry the scars silently. The word 349 has even entered the cultural lexicon. To be na 349 means to be cheated, to be promised something extraordinary, only to have it snatched away. Pepsi was asked recently to comment on the disaster. Their response was curt and clinical. These events took place almost 30 years ago. None of the executives familiar with this program are at PepsiCo anymore. We deeply regret any pain and suffering our mistake caused the people of the Philippines. But for the people who lived through number fever, that's not enough. Because what burned wasn't just bottle caps or budgets, it was trust. It was hope. It was the chance, however slim, of rewriting your story with one lucky number. And when that hope exploded, so did the country. A contest meant to unite destroyed lives. A number meant to bring joy brought chaos. And a brand meant to refresh left behind a bitter taste that's never quite gone away. Not so much the sweet taste of success. Now, this was obviously quite a tragic tale which brought untold misery to lots and lots of people throughout the Philippines. However, I hope you like the way the material was presented. I'll look forward to seeing you on the next one, and I'll bid you bye-bye for now.